Something strange in the neighborhood. Who are you gonna call? Ghostbusters!
Those were up, and they did.
We're smart, and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new franchise ranking. This franchise ranking is going to be for a film that just recently got a new installment in its series. And I finally saw this installment now, and I have not done this franchise ranking yet. And this is going to be for an 80s horror comedy franchise that's been going since 1984, and recently came out with its 5th installment. I reviewed that 5th installment the previous day. Now it's time to rank all 5 of these movies. And this franchise ranking is going to be for none other than the Ghostbusters franchise, which will be ranking all 5 films from the worst to the best. And yeah, so let's get started with the number 1 worst. And I think you guys can all know the very one I am easily talking about when I say number 1 worst. So kicking off easily in the bottom worst, easily the most deserved, far away from every other film in this series, is no doubt Wokebusters 2016. Oh my god, yeah. This is about, I think, just about anybody's number 1 worst. Every single franchise fan puts this in the number 1 worst spot. Like anybody's bomb ranking, whenever they do a ranking of these films, this was obviously going to be number 1 when I did this as well. This movie is not Ghostbusters at all. It does not deserve to be called Ghostbusters. You want to know what this movie is? It's just woke propaganda disguising as a Ghostbusters film. Now, with Paul Feig, I enjoy the heat and spy of the movies he's done. I'm not a big fan of Bridesmaids. I think that movie is very mean-spirited as hell and very overhyped, and I didn't think Melissa McCarthy's performance in that movie was Oscar-worthy like people made it out to be. Honestly, Oscar nomination, in my opinion, really should have went to The Heat. In all honesty, I thought her performance in The Heat was much better. And when it comes to A Simple Favor, I think I would have liked that 2018 film A Simple Favor better if it had been about Blake Lively's character instead, not Anna's. Much more. Like, now when it comes to his attempt to revive a franchise, this is a huge disgrace to the original film. It is a bad film on its own as well. Like, other than the spirited and entertaining, like, there's just almost nothing redeemable about this movie whatsoever. At all. Except for, like, the original 4 actors making some cameos. There's, like, nothing about this that spells Ghostbusters. Like, literally, I've never wanted a team of Ghostbusters to freaking die so much. Like, all of them. Okay, like, Kristen Wiig's character, I could tolerate a little bit. Because maybe she was, like, one of the only 4 that seemed like she was taking the project seriously at times. It was, like, not, like, likable, but the least annoying of the 4. Yeah, least annoying. The other 3, on the other hand, were just insufferable, annoying characters that I wanted the ghosts to kill all 3 of their asses. I wanted Wannabe Ray Stantz, aka McCarthy's character, to get pelted with wontons because of that unfunny wonton gag that gets repeated to fucking death about her whenever she orders Chinese food. She bitches about getting 1 wonton in her soup, which is done like 3 times in the movie. And it's not even a funny joke. Wanted wannabe stereotype Winston, or a.k.a. Leslie Jones's character, to get turned to a dog by Gozer, or get stomped on by Mr. Stay Puft, or stuck up Stay Puft's ass. And then I wanted wannabe Egon, a.k.a. McKinnon's character to dance march her breakdancing ass off a cliff or down to the sewer, fall into the river, slime and drown, and on the way there get slimed by Slimer, get chased and nipped up by the Mad Fur Coat from Ghostbusters 2, as also the walking Statue of Liberty, all the way there, and then falls into a sewer hole, and then where she drowns into the river of slime. And get this, like, yeah, like, as soon as you meet these Ghostbusters, they're not even likable, because when they get fired, you want to know the first thing they do, like, instead of build their own equipment like the original team did, and literally saved up to get themselves a new, like, little area to do their work, the Ghostbusters actually steal all their shit, instead of building their own equipment. Like, even the original trio did not even steal any of their shit from their old university at all. They built their stuff. Unlike these idiots who basically think it's okay to steal shit and somehow don't get arrested. Like, this turns out to be every bit as awful as the trailers make it look. It's just a disgrace. Even if it wasn't connected to Ghostbusters, it's a bad film on its own as well. Like, yeah. It's not even pleasing visually at all. It's really incomplete looking, and it even looks too cartoonish with the special effects. The music is very generic and overbearing. Like, the theme song is by Fall Out Boy is one of the worst versions of the Ghostbusters theme. Unlike the original that has a great blend of comedy, horror, and action, this reboot fails at all three of them. The horror is literally non-existent, and there's too little, and it's literally diluted by heavy overloaded or unintentional comedy, and it increases predictability and lack of suspense and such. And there's barely any action in the movie as well. Like, and also another thing about these Ghostbusters, like, you know, in the original, the actors that, except for Harold Ramis, make cameos. Yeah, the original actors from the original movies, four of them, the fourth is Sigourney Weaver in the credits. They make cameos. Like, when it comes to Bill Murray's cameo, in his scene, he literally criticizes the female team. And guess what, guys? You want to know what the female team responds to his character? They literally release a ghost and they kill his ass. Then when the police arrive, they literally reference 1990s Ghost with Patrick Swayze. Because, like, the cop thinks they're comparing an incident to Patrick Swayze, get it? They mentioned Patrick Swayze, so, yeah, hence the Ghost reference. And that really pisses me off a lot, because that's my favorite Patrick Swayze film. Like, seriously, I don't care. Paul Feig, keep fucking Ghost, and keep Patrick Swayze out of your piece of shit. Do not mention any of those in this shitty reboot. Leave that out. Yeah, leave my favorite Patrick Swayze film out of your shitty reboot. Yeah, speaking of Paul Feig, like, Paul Feig even, like, going around, like, being bitch on social media about how, yeah, just being an entitled bitch on social media. Yeah. And, like, in the end, like, yeah, this is exactly why the movie bombed at the box office, is because nobody wanted to see it, and it was a shitty remake. It was a disgrace to the franchise. That's why it bombed at the box office. And nobody liked it. In the end, like, guys, I could go on and on, but this is 6 minutes long. We want to get to the other films. Like, in the end, this scene from Casper literally summarizes this whole movie perfectly.
Who are you gonna call? Someone else.
Kicking off in fourth place is going to be 1989's Ghostbusters 2. Okay, look. I'm fine if some of you like this sequel. I really am, each their own. But personally, while I would definitely watch this over Wokebusters any day, that I can definitely agree with anybody on when they say that, I just don't really like this sequel. And I have reasons why I don't. Like, for one, you know the first film's ending? Guess what, guys? This goes curb stomp American History X on the terrific ending of the first film, and literally just makes the people of New York asshole idiots by mentioning the beginning of the movie that they sued the Ghostbusters for all of Gozer's damage, despite the fact that they literally witnessed the whole entire thing during the finale. And so they basically just want to rehash the story of the first one and put everyone back to square one where they started. What doesn't even help is that Aykroyd and Ramis didn't even want to make a franchise of Ghostbusters. They wanted to leave it as a standalone movie, but because Ghostbusters made money and it got acclaim, Sony demanded a sequel. The lines are like nowhere near as funny, the story's pretty dull, and they got the hip-hop rap soundtrack, which is also not a great thing. Like, where was the darkness of the first movie? Yeah, like, the first one was kind of for kids as well, but it balanced the right audience for both kids and adults. And it balances dark tone and its comedy tone very nice. This movie, this goes way too lighthearted because, like, Ghostbusters had an animated series called The Real Ghostbusters, and so that probably convinced them to make the tone more lighthearted for that audience, probably aim it more for that audience, like, it, like, helps them by, like, the not as great score in this one. It's no match for the power that Elmer Bernstein did for the first movie as well. Like, and you got some wonderful wide shots and camera blocking, feature up to 6 characters at once, and like, and another thing about Dana in this movie, you know, Dana, you all know Dana has a kid named Oscar in this film, and apparently that was all from a marriage that was never mentioned in the first film. So somehow, like, they don't even explain, like, shouldn't the first one have shown that she was pregnant or hinted she was pregnant or something like that? Then it would make more sense. Like, I could have mentioned that other marriage in that first film. And somehow, like, we never see any of that here. Like, it's a bit hard to pinpoint why literally Ghostbusters 2 disappoints as much as it does. Like, there's no life to it. It's perfectly watchable. It does get a few chuckles. Like, the cast are all present and correct. And even they go for the motions, like when Murray was engaged and attended to material, he could turn a fantastic performance, but even he didn't really, but we all know even he didn't really like doing the sequel, so material doesn't interest him. His non-talents just turn sluggish here, and that's definitely present for this one, because to be fair, even he says he's not a fan of this sequel either. Really, like, something that undermines this film as a whole, like, for the good parts, like, now, this movie still has good parts. I can admit that. Like, for one, like, the 4 cast members, they still have the good chemistry. The good chemistry is still here in this movie. They're still likable characters, and they still do try to make a good performance with the scripts they got. The courtroom scene with the 2 ghosts, that's definitely epic. That definitely has to feel the first film's ghost scenes. And the finale, I'll admit, the finale it definitely has a more epic finale than the Stay Puft finale from the first film. I do think that. Like, I think, like, the scene in the museum was much more epic than the showdown with Stay Puft and Gozer in the first film, to be honest. The shame that finale just had to be in a lame sequel. Other than other than those few good things about the film, Ghostbusters 2, it's just really lame in my eyes. It's just unnecessary and really just kind of made for a quick buck by studios. And you could understand why they didn't really make a third film after that. Ghostbusters 2 is not one of the worst sequels ever made. It's just kind of lifeless and really unnecessary. Kicking off at number 3 is going to be for the very new guy that got released last week, and that is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Our new guy on the block. And to be honest, like, I think this movie is not great. I wouldn't say it's good, but it's slightly better than some people really call it to be. I mean, I think this has a bit of the energy of the first film. The 4 OG casts are back to their usual selves here. I mean, no, the 3 OG cast members were left are back to their usual selves here. They have a bit more to do in this one than they did before, and it's refreshing to see kind of a different plot and idea for once instead of just trying to redo the entire first film over and over again. Yes, Ghostbusters 2 had a different villain, but even that rehashed the first film's story a lot of times. But, like, although, to be fair, it's kind of weird how this got made because Afterlife wasn't really that profitable. Kind of weird they made a sequel to a film that really wasn't that successful at the box office. Where our problems do kind of lie, though, like, the film has choppy editing, there's some slow pacing. The new villain, like, Garaka's a pretty refreshing villain, but he didn't really get much development. I forgot to mention this in my review for this movie. The romance plot with Phoebe and Melody, no. That was way too overkill in my eyes. Patton Oswalt, I thought, was also a bit miscast as his character, even though he's in one scene. And Kumail, though, like, of the new characters I mentioned, Kumail easily gets the best laughs of the newcomers. And his character does steal a show in the scenes he's in. And also, like, when it comes to the new characters as a whole, though, Phoebe's definitely still the likable one, as she was in Afterlife. And we get to see some other new tested-out equipment we never saw before. Now, that was definitely nice to see. And then it was nice seeing the library ghost again. But however, the reason why it does fall quite a bit steep is because, like, sometimes there is too many characters, the pacing goes on a little too slow, and the biggest problem that's back, Walter Peck. Somehow this guy was allowed to be mayor, even though he should not be remotely near anything political stuff after his actions in the first film. He should have gotten arrested at the end of the first film. And the first film, even the first film, he got some kind of comeuppance by getting Stay Puft Remains splashed into his face. And it clearly, yeah, kind of almost burning his face because that stuff was probably really hot. So it probably burned him quite a bit. It's like however, he didn't even get arrested, though. And this one, he gets, like, 0 comeuppance. He gets, like, nothing at the end of this film. Like, and honestly, it's kind of weird to bring Walter Peck back, considering that role almost got William a bunch of death threats and almost damaged his life a bit. Because of the toxic fans that actually thought he was really the character. Like, and also, like, Finn Wolfhard's Trevor, even, like, he had little to do in the first film, he has even less to do in this movie. So, like, you could take Trevor out of this movie, and you would miss nothing. Because he's so even more pointless in the sequel. Does even more nothing. But just to basically be there and just drive the car again. Or just be in the car or drive the car again. Yeah, so more I mentioned in my review. If you want to go check out my review, guys, you can. Like, honestly, Frozen Empire, it's not great. And it's certainly not, like, good. And then I did not say it was good in my review. I can agree on a lot of problems it had, but it feels like there's more energy in this one than some of the last few sequels it had. And, like, it's a decent time waster. I'll watch it over The Last Jedi, I'll watch it over Scream 6, I'll watch it over Matrix Resurrections, I'll watch it over Halloween Ends. What else could I think of? I would watch this over Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom even. Which is, yeah, easily, but probably by far one of the worst Jurassic Park movies yet. What else can I think of? I'd watch this over Alien 3. I'd watch it over Clerks 3. I'd watch it over any much worse legacy sequels that try to revive nostalgia franchises I've seen. Oh, hell, I'll even watch this over Indiana Jones and the Diary of Disney. Okay, I think those are much worse legacy sequels than this. Because even this movie treats the OGs with respect. And also, I don't buy that. I just think it's slightly better than some of the paid Raw Tomato critics are making it out to be. I think the lower score it's getting belongs to Wokebusters 2016. To be fair, as I don't think they can make a Ghostbusters movie worse than that. So yeah, Frozen Empire, it's a decent time waster. Not good, but just alright. Kicking off in second place is going to be 2021's Ghostbusters Afterlife. Well, after the disaster that was Wokebusters from 2016, this was pretty much the movie that the franchise really needed to get the life back into it, and one that would be directed by late director Ivan Reitman's son, Jason Reitman. And he'd go back to the original timeline and be a proper dedication to Harold Ramis. And yes, this was easily the first time a sequel in this series was actually good. Not great, but good. A part of me was like not too excited for this idea when I saw the trailers. Then it was back in 2019 when I saw the trailers, and then COVID delayed this movie repeatedly. All the way to November 2021. Then November 2021, it finally got to be released. And then, so I saw pretty much a Wednesday advance screening of the film 2 days before its release date, like you all know, because my review came a little early back when this came out. And, oh man, it still wasn't as good as the first one, but it was actually a pretty payoff watch. And probably one of the funnest advance screenings I attended. Or Wednesday night preview, or it's technically advanced screen. Technically, they're the same thing. It shouldn't matter. It wasn't masterpiece worthy, but it was enjoyable. The characters they present us are almost as well characterized and useful to the plot. They're not whiny, they're not cringy and annoying. The director did a pretty good job, given like the great responsibility he had with this film. Some ideas are pretty bright and innovative, and the first hour and a half, it's pretty beautiful, and there's some good jokes and suspenseful scenes. Like the original, like we all know, like the original, like yeah, it's some good references to like and good throwbacks and like good tributes to Harold Ramis who played Egon Spengler in these movies, and we all know like the plot of this, like his granddaughter's been evicted from her apartment. She packs up her car and her two kids, and they go to this dilapidated farmhouse like she inherited from Egon, who never met her. And Kelly has pretty much lived her life bitter, and was pretty much upset her father never reached out, and pretty much instead decided to go isolate himself in Somerville, the fictional town in this movie. And he also have her two kids named Trevor and Phoebe. Phoebe's a science wit. Trevor's the awkward teenager, and Phoebe's pretty much the size whiz who seems to be a near-done clone of the grandfather she never met. So they adjust to her new life, and Trevor's now swinging over this local girl he meets at the workplace he gets hired at, and Phoebe befriends this other outcast named Podcast. And Callie gets closer to her science teacher, Gary Grimson. That's like... Now it comes to this movie as a whole, like... As, like, fine as Kuhn and Rudd are in their performances, like, their scenes just aren't really that interesting. Their romance plot really wasn't that interesting. They don't really have good romance chemistry with one another. Like, the more fun actually just comes more from the youngsters that are exploring Egon's workshop and the mysterious mountain at the edge of town. Pretty much this long ago abandoned mine run by the town's founder. And right here, guys, our new successor, our female lead Phoebe, is very likable, and definitely a way better female successor than Ray. And honestly, this is how Ray should have been written to begin with. You even get good action scenes, nice throwbacks to the 80s, especially those who watched the first one when they were kids. And the finale, guys, oh man, the finale is very amazing, very epic, and very tear-jerking at the same time, and easily the best part of this movie. Because, like, in it, it's like, I remember when... During that whole final battle, once the OG3 showed up, my whole theater really felt like a football stadium. That was the first time I've had a big crowd cheer since I watched Endgame in the theaters. And this when you see Harold's ghost, I could literally hear the whole theater tearing up at that bit. Even I did a little bit. It was a terrific farewell we long needed for Harold Ramis once he passed in 2014. Right there. So there was good throwbacks. A very epic finale despite some problems I also had with the finale. And yeah, like, it was honestly, this was what I like to call Force Awakens actually done decent. But it still had some bad qualities, and it's the reason why I did not give it an 8.5 out of 10, and why I gave it a 7 when I reviewed it. For the bad qualities, this is one I can agree with people on. I hate they rehash Gozer again, instead of doing a new threat, because it's like they just couldn't come up with something and decided, you know what, remember Gozer from the first film? Let's do that again. We can't come up with a new villain. We don't have the time to do that. Yeah. So Gozer's back. Really not needed to come back because they were too cheap to think of a new villain. I also hate the scene when we get introduced to Ray, he finds out that Egon died when Phoebe phone calls him. And it's his entrance scene, the first time we see Ray Stantz in a long time. And the first reaction he says is, Egon Spengler can rot in hell. Like, yeah, and like my whole theater, like, even was shocked at that part. Even I was shocked at that part. I definitely did not like, that's the one thing he finds out he finds out Egon Spengler died, and that's the thing he says. Yeah, he's mad at Egon during this, but this is uncharacteristic of Ray. Ray would not say this about his own friend Egon. Ray wouldn't say this about any of his friends if they died. Of all of them. And I mentioned this, I'm not a fan of the scenes with Callie and Gary. And their romance feels flat because they don't get much development, and they become pretty useless in the finale because they basically just are there to take over Dana and Lewis's possessed roles in that first film, and they got turned into dogs by Gozer. They're just there to be that again. They're just there to be them for this movie. Yeah, and Trevor, yeah, I mentioned in Frozen Empire, he was useless in Frozen Empire. He's also pretty useless in this. The only role he had in this movie was just to drive the Ecto-1, and that was it. Other than those problems, like Afterlife, it's good a sequel, but it's not a phenomenal sequel. Because of the problems I had with it. And the over-relying rehashes it had in the finale. But it's probably the first time I enjoyed a Ghostbusters. I've decently had a decent time with a Ghostbusters film since the first film. And probably, like, yeah, Ghostbusters Afterlife, second best sequel in the series. No doubt. And I know people are going to disagree with me on that, but it's true. Now, kicking off at number 1 is no doubt the first film from 1984. Yes, the one and only first film that will never be dethroned from its spot at number 1, and it deserves to stay there for life. Ghostbusters is easily one of the most iconic films of cinema ever made, and of comedy and 80s in general. I remember first watching this when I was 10 years old when it was rented from Blockbuster, and I've loved this movie ever since. The answer is like resounding, yeah, like Ghostbusters. As even to this day, it's still a great movie. It's an entertaining classic for all ages. It's an out-and-out comedy with especially some many funny, great actors like Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, the late Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver, and of course Rick Moranis. And also, you got this very superb casting right there. Like, every actor and actress is perfect for their roles here. And it's not surprising, like, because these roles were written for them. Like, Aykroyd, the co-writer of this film, created the role, pretty much created himself a role that plays wonderfully to his natural talents. Yeah. And it pretty much follows that he should definitely be this overly excusable, somewhat gullible nerd who pours himself into his work. Harold Ramis was brilliant as Egon. He was a straight-faced, dry intellectual. Then you got Ernie Hudson, who's like, there's this recruit that comes to work for them. He brings this real down-to-earth likability to Winston. Sigourney Weaver even shows that she definitely had what it takes to play in comedies around this time, because she wasn't in any comedies around the time of this era happened. So it's the first time she did comedy. Like, and then of course it's also Bill Murray, who really steals the show of all four of them. This is one of Murray's greatest strengths as an actor, and his silliness, his blatant insincerity, and he easily has it as best when he's playing the schemer, or the con man. Yeah, Peter Venkman's definitely the best of the four. He's just he's a little bit suspicious at times because he's like a fraud or charlatan. He makes this living study things he doesn't believe in, even. And he's this shameless womanizer to boot. Like in the first scene when, even though the nerd's getting the ones right, he shocks anyway, and even decides to shock him because of the other female student that's also in that place, and he's pretty much allowing her wrong ones, accepting them as right, likely so he can please her, stuff and also Venkman's chemistry with Sigourney Weaver's Dana is also priceless. And the comedic balancing act that does so well, it's never flat or deadpan, and it's never quite over the top. It's this character driving this whole enterprise, even if he has no idea what he's doing. There's many good action sequences here, a handful of some pretty spooky parts. This one really gets the comedy and the scary stuff evenly balanced very well. He also, especially with the now famous librarian jump scare right there. And also, this film has a really great ending. You got... Because, especially when they get there, once they're facing off Gozer, then Mr. Stay Puft enters, is one of the funniest giant monsters created, because, Ray pretty much had to imagine their foe as Stay Puft right there, and, yeah, and the special effects are also really good for, a film from 1984, and when they aren't, it adds to the movie's goofy feel as well. Well, here, for a film, it's just very funny, and also sad at the same time how a film from 1984 has better special effects with its ghosts and its little effects when they take down the ghosts way more than any film that gets released in Hollywood today. And also, the theme song of this movie. You get one of the most epic theme songs of cinema as well. Right there. Like I said it in the intro. Right there. All in all, guys, Ghostbusters, I could go on and on, but Ghostbusters, it will always be an 80s masterpiece that's perfect to introduce your kids to the horror genre, and I definitely cannot wait for any parents to show their kids this movie once they get the chance. So, when you get the answer, who are you going to call? You're definitely going to call the Ghostbusters when you pop this movie onto your TV or your DVD player. And it's easily the film in this series that is easily worth buying the most. There you go, guys. that wraps up my ranking for all 5 of the Ghostbusters movies. So, I want to know now in the comments below what your ranking would be of the films you have seen, if you've seen all 5 of them, or just the ones you have seen. Yeah, like, just remember to keep your opinions nice. Like, as long as you don't slam my opinion, I'll be fine with I'll be fine with anyone else's opinions if people don't slam mine, of course. And I definitely, yeah, I just want to know in the comments down below how you would rank the franchise. And if you have seen the shows, how you rank the shows as well. Or if we were to even include the video game. Until then, guys, that'll be it for this franchise ranking. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.